Hey everybody, welcome back to Bringing the Band Back Together, and today I have with me Ashley Costello. She is an up and rising audio engineer and stepped up into the big leagues just within the last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is remarkable in a society or world where women and men sometimes clash in as far as like how much they should get paid or equality in the job. I feel like this industry, we don't play that. Women are treated as equals, like they should be, and I think it's great to show a young lady here that is fresh into the business. So in case you're interested in becoming part of the business, she's the one to go to. Can you give me a brief summary of how you got started in the industry?
Yeah, so it kind of all started in like middle school. My dad was a technical director at a church that we attended, and he kind of forced me to volunteer and get involved.
But you fell in love with it.
Yeah, so I started at like camera switching. We had like 3 cameras and like 2 PTZs or something. So I would switch for the live stream, and I hated it at the time. Like sometimes it was fun, but I hated waking up so early, especially like when I was younger. But and then I just kind of kept doing it. And then in high school, I started band, and my parents had a music store, so it's like music has always been very prominent in my life, and I've always had like an appreciation for music and I guess people working behind the scenes since I got involved so young. And then in college...
Sorry, do you play any instruments yourself?
Yeah, so in high school I played percussion. I
Okay.
I started off playing like piano in our marching band, and then I started playing marimba, and yeah, I was pretty into it. I had like private lessons and
Your parents
all that
had
stuff.
a rental thing going on.
Yeah, so I helped out in high school with my parents' music store. We rented like band instruments and sold accessories.
How far back generation-wise, because you said you have a huge influence in audio in your family, obviously, with your dad. How far back generation-wise does that go?
So my dad's dad, my grandpa, he opened Costello's Music in the 30s. So
Wow.
we almost had it open for, yeah, like almost 100 years. I mean,
That's cool.
yeah, it's really cool. We closed it down in like 2021 or something, but...
Who would you say are your, obviously you're probably going to say your dad, right? But could you explain more in detail, like what really drove you? How did you fall in love with audio? How did he help you with that?
Yeah, so in college I was looking for a job, and my dad knew I liked working behind the scenes, and I enjoyed, volunteering at church and stuff. So he was like, well, why don't you just try to find a local church to like mix at? And I was like, well, I don't have any mixing experience. He was like, doesn't matter, like, someone out there could use your help. So
What's crazy, I think I remember, because I follow you on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
I think I remember you starting that job.
Yes, yeah.
That's
So
cool. And you went to what school?
I went to Florida State University.
Okay, cool.
So
Cool.
yeah,
I'm not a Gator fan or anything like that.
Okay,
So,
that's good.
Yeah. We can be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that mixer at that church analog or digital?
It was digital. It was a Behringer X32.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
the classic. I didn't love it, but...
You didn't love it?
No, I didn't love it.
Why didn't you love it?
Now that I've mixed on other boards, it's just...
You've driven the
But
Ferraris.
I think it was a really great board to learn on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for the price point that it's at, and I wouldn't say it's super user friendly, but
yeah, I think that's...
the good thing about it is that there's a lot of videos out there to learn from.
Yeah, I watched a lot of YouTube University.
You should go to YouTube University. But Chad Kirkpatrick with Ascension Worship has Tech Tuesday.
Right.
And he
Yep.
Chad puts a lot out there for the X32 and the wing, and he loves all that stuff. But
yeah,
he also understands that there's better quality mixers too. But
yeah, but it was great for that church. Like, it was great for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Were there any early experiences, events that hinted that you had a passion for it, other than church and the band and stuff like that, like earlier in your childhood?
So when I was in college, my dad told me to reach out to a guy named Blake, and he does installs in Tallahassee, and
Okay.
like he set up like smaller band events. Like he'd set up for bands like playing at local restaurants or like a small just small events. And I got connected with him, so he let me kind of shadow him, and that was like my first introduction to like stagehand work, I guess.
So is he your mentor still, or is your dad
No.
your mentor?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's
your
my
dad's such a
current-
prominent
yeah.
person in the audio industry in this community here, and it is only right that I automatically assume that he is your mentor.
No, he definitely is my mentor. Yeah.
Your influence, your
Yeah, but Blake was like my first introduction to the kind of stagehand and he worked with a local theater company, and I was his A2 for a theater festival, like my first ever theater festival.
Oh, cool.
I was in charge of like 14 wireless mics, which was like a lot for me, and I had never done it before. Like I didn't know what was going on, and everything that could have went wrong did go wrong.
How many shows did you go through?
It was like a week long, so
Okay.
every night was like a rehearsal, and then there was 2 show days, two
Okay.
separate days, and there was like a younger theater company that I did sound for, so I had to follow along with the cues and stuff, and then he did it for the main theater act.
When I was in college and went to the Art Institute of Seattle, there was a theater company that hired me for a one-man production, and then they hired me for a full production, like I would say 60 performances in a month.
Oh wow.
It was pretty crazy,
Yeah.
and we had a live band on stage.
Oh
And
nice.
it was like really my first.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned making a lot of mistakes. I would say that's how you learn in this industry.
Yeah.
I went to school for it. Did you take any classes at FSU with audio?
I did not. I majored in
Did they have anything there?
They had a film school,
Hmm.
and I thought about getting involved, but they wanted you to like submit like a movie that you made or like all, and I'm like I'm not into
You're like,
film
I'm doing audio.
necessarily,
What movie?
but yeah, I think they might have had other programs kind of closer, but I didn't. I majored in information communication technology, so it was kind of more like IT.
What experiences have you had in the industry that is predominantly male? We talked a little about that in the beginning. Nurses out there, it's hard for men to get into it. It works the other way in many things, but what is your experience with it?
I've had a really positive experience. I think it's definitely noticeable, like when I'm on the road and the local IOTC or whatever shows up, and I'm like, oh, there's one other girl, great.
How tall are you?
How tall am I?
Yeah.
I'm 5'4".
5'4".
Yeah.
So you come strolling in there like, what is she doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had it's definitely noticeable, but I try not to dwell on it or think about it too much, because I mean there aren't a lot of women doing it, but the women that I do see doing it, I feel like in every city I'm in, at least one like woman stagehand comes up to me and she's like, it's so reassuring to see another woman like touring and like doing this. And I think it's really special. But yeah, I try not to think about it. I mean, I don't really notice the lack of women, but it's definitely it's noticeable. But yeah, I try not to like dwell on it too much. But
So you mentioned that you're on a tour. Could you tell me more of, okay, so you finished college and you've done all that stuff, and now you work for...
Yeah, I work for AVL Productions.
Sorry, you didn't mention.
Sorry, it was like, oh,
That's
okay. Yes, I work for AVL Productions. We're based in Jacksonville Beach.
I've worked with them a couple times. They're
Yeah,
good guys
yeah, they're awesome.
and gals.
Yep.
How many women are on staff?
There's one other besides me. Yeah, just me and Megan.
I mean, in the office, though.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
office
okay,
we
okay.
do have.
I know the office staff.
Yeah,
I
about
think her
3
name's Laura.
women,
Anyway.
3 or 4, but Yeah, so
But on the production floor,
yes.
what is your job with the company?
So I'm an audio person, obviously.
Yeah, of course. What do you do?
For a while, I've just been doing a lot of local shows. So, during the week, 9 to 5, we're in the warehouse. We load trucks. We keep inventory of our gear, and we do a lot of like local concerts and corporate events and stuff. So for a while, I've been the first few months I was here, I did mostly like more like stagehand work where I'd go and like load in, load out, help set up smaller events.
So you didn't run the event; you just did load in and load it out only.
Yeah. So, and lately I've been scheduled a lot to like patch for shows. So they kind of have a system of like all of the new, like if you're a new audio person, they kind of have a system of like how you're being scheduled and like what you're learning. So I'm in this kind of phase of, I'm obviously touring right now, but I'm doing a lot of patching, a lot of like working on stage as like A2, A3, I guess.
For our listeners, can you explain those different ones? So first you mentioned you're a patch tech. Can you explain to us what a patch tech is?
Yeah, so at festivals, I did a local jazz festival a couple weeks ago, and we get there every morning. There was only like 2 bands a day.
Let's go back even further. What is load in?
So
what do you do during load in?
We get to the venue, and we basically just unload our truck. Usually, we have front of house console, monitor console. We have to hang PA, get the wedges set up, get our console set up, get all our snakes run, all our cables ran, and then we have lighting. We usually have like video wall. So
how early do you show up before a gig to do it?
Usually, I'd say about 4 to 5 hours before.
Okay.
Depending on how large a scale. Like when I'm touring, it usually takes us about 4 hours to load in, and then.
So loadout's obviously the difference. What I find remarkable is the difference in time. So usually it's about half the time. So if it takes you 6 hours to put it together, it's going to take you 3 hours.
Oh yeah, because we're just ripping everything off, and
it feels so much more refreshing taking it all
yeah.
apart, and that the show's all done for sure.
Yes.
Could you tell us more about A2 that you mentioned, one of your positions? Talk a little bit more about patch tech. I interrupted you.
That's okay.
And any other positions that and which one do you enjoy the most?
Okay. Yeah, so lately I've been doing a lot of patching. Yeah, we get to the venue. Yeah, I like patching. It's so important to be so organized, which I found. The first few times I patched, or the first couple times I patched, it was kind of a mess because you have to be so organized, especially when you're using like, an analog split and have all your, your CPC boxes and all that. So usually we get there, we'll get an input list depending on how many bands there are. So the last festival I did, there's only 2 bands a day. So I had 2 different splits. I patched, the opener on one split and then the headliner for another split. And I kept my patching separately. So all my, you label all your boxes, you run them out to wherever they are on stage. And then, then it's nice to be able to keep them separate, but sometimes on those big festivals, like, you just get a standard, like, festival patch from your monitor guy, and you have all your boxes labeled, so every time the band comes up, you can kind of, vocal 1, 2, 3 is always going to go in the same spot, guitar amp, guitar DI, yeah, it's
Isn't it weird when somebody doesn't put the kick drum first?
Yes, yeah.
You're like, what is this person doing? Where did they learn this?
Yep, so, yeah, it's a little bit of cross-patching, but just making sure you have everything written down and what you're doing is so important. And just labeling all your cables. Just
so the listeners know, what is a split? You referred to a split. What is a split?
Yeah, so they're like 54 channel splits. So they're basically these, what do you call them?
Boxes
Like
or
boxes.
racks? They're racks.
That,
They're
yeah,
in
racks
yeah.
that have 54, XLR inputs, and we have CPC that have, a CPC fan out with XLRs. So we patch those in order. We have them like color labeled and everything. And then those CPC run to an extension to a 12-channel CPC box, which also has inputs. So then you patch all of your mics into the box. It goes to the split goes to the console, and then that's how they get there.
Right, so what she's explaining is that the split is a analog split where you're taking the input of that microphone from the stage and you're sending it to the monitor world, and then you're sending it to front of house.
Yeah.
And maybe even video production if they're filming it or whatever. It might be another mix too.
Yeah, it's basically, just that in between the mic and the console.
A lot of cables, definitely got to be organized.
And, we have our, fan outs that go into the engines, and then, yeah.
What would you say is your most remarkable project right now, as of today?
I recently joined, so we tour with Theo Vaughn, and
so you like some comedy? He's funny.
Yeah, he's really funny. That's the tour I most recently been put on, so I've been doing all his shows, and that's been really cool.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so I'm A2 for that show, so I hang out on stage left, and I hang stage left PA, and I set up my monitor world. He doesn't use monitors, but, I set up all the mics and stuff, but, yeah.
That's cool. How many tours have you been on or projects have you worked on? How long have you been working with AVL?
I've worked for AVL exactly a year, so it was a few days ago I hit my official year mark. This Theo Vaughn tour is my first official tour. I had been on a couple Tom Segura shows. We do his whole tour. I've been thrown on one or two of each tour, but this tour is specifically me and my other audio guy. So, yeah. They
tell the same jokes over. Obviously, you hear it over and over. Is it funny every time, or you just kind of get immune to it?
Or do you still Theo has such a way of telling his jokes that they're funny every single time. His delivery is so good that I find I still laugh every time I hear his set.
Laughter's good. How do you handle the pressure of high-profile situations?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
Do
you take a deep breath? Do you pray?
Yeah, sometimes I pray.
Some people drink alcohol, but that's not good for you.
No, yeah. I think I'm pretty calm under pressure. I feel like if you're doing everything you can to do it right, and you have a good attitude, and you've done everything you can to make it a great show, then there's really no reason to stress. And if something goes wrong, something goes wrong. You just have to fix it.
And it just goes back to experience. So the more you experience things, the more you make the mistakes, the less amount of times you make the mistake. And that's kind of what makes or breaks you, right, in this industry, is that do you keep on making the same mistakes, or do you learn from each one of them? I know personally, I have to go back and reflect, and if I did something wrong or something was wrong with the show or the service, I'll be like, I'll think about it until I figure it out. And then by the time I'm ready to go back, I'm already implementing a change, or it's so ingrained in my head what I did wrong that it's not going to happen again, ever. It's pretty cool.
Right. I look back on some things that I've messed up, and it's pretty traumatizing in the moment, but I'm honestly, it's kind of good that these things happen, because I'm like, okay, I'll never do that again, and I know if this does happen, I can fix it.
What was the biggest mistake you've made? Did you shut off all of, front of house, all the sound shut down? Anything crazy?
Nothing that crazy has happened. I feel like it's been mostly just little things. Nothing big comes to mind. That's good. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Like that.
I started out on Vashon Island, which is an island off of Seattle. And I can tell you, I made so many mistakes that it just fine-tuned me. The biggest thing is your personality. You'd mentioned patch tech and everything. What I liked about that is you get direct communication, face to face with the artist, which makes it even better
Yeah.
than just mixing their stuff. You kind of build a rapport with them, and I think that connection is rather cool.
Right.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years in this field? Are you going to be doing A1? I'm sure you do A1 for some smaller shows.
Yeah, I
Any
mean,
plans
hopefully.
to take over Welcome to Rockville?
Yeah, I mean, my goal is to definitely be able to run front of house confidently and be able to be scheduled on that, like, by myself. Obviously I'm touring, and that's awesome, and I want to keep touring, but there's just so much to learn. Like, when I first started, my coworkers always joke it's like drinking water out of a fire hose. Like, there's just so much information at one time, and it just takes a long time, and a lot of gigs you're just kind of thrown into it. You just have to figure it out. But yeah, I hope to keep touring, and I hope to be A1 on more shows.
I remember doing Welcome to Rockville one time because AVL needed somebody to fill in. I walked 62 miles or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so crazy.
I hope to work Rockville this year. I didn't work it last year, but...
We did the smaller stage, but still just the local band stage. And I think another company, or maybe a bigger production. I think AVL still did the other stage. But.
Yeah, we usually do all stages.
How can the industry better support the next generation of female audio engineers? I mean, I know there's not like some campaign out there, hey, hiring females, but I think this video is in a good position to help further females and give them the confidence. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I feel like it's just about like exposure and like knowing that other women are doing this, like stuff like this interview. Like, I just think it's important to show women that they can do this too, and that they don't have to, that it's not only for men. And I mean, I didn't even know this kind of career was like a thing unless it was for my parents, like introduced me into the world of production. I feel like a lot of people don't even know that these jobs exist, and I feel like a lot more people would be interested if they knew. Yeah, I just wish media, I guess, shared more about production and working behind the scenes, because it's really so cool. And like, when I tell my friends what I do, like, they think it's cool, and I don't know. I think, yeah, it would be nice to see more people doing these kinds of jobs.
This is definitely a skill set that you can learn, that you don't have to go to college. You went in to FSU and your parents paid some money for that college and everything. How do you feel college prepared you for this job? Because there are things about college that do prepare you for right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed going to college, and I don't think my major necessarily like directly prepared me for this, because I think the only way to like really learn in this industry, I feel like, is just to work and just to do it. Like, I know people that have went to Full Sail and like studied sound engineering and all that, but once they're like actually in the field doing it, it's so much different than learning in a classroom. And I don't know, I enjoyed my major and learning like technical things and presenting in front of people, and learning more social aspects of, I don't know.
Well, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. A good thing for this, and good advice for you, is that your skill set, your talent gets you in the room, but it's your personality that keeps you in the room.
Yes.
And
yeah,
you can be as talented as you want and pompous as you want all day long. But being pompous and not having the right attitude, and being a team player, and you're there to as a service. You're not there for yourself. Or you're never there for yourself, right? You're ultimately there for Theo Vaughn, and you're ultimately there for the audience, and you're ultimately there for whoever's paying you before you are for yourself. And I think that's a valuable thing to learn. I think some engineers, probably mostly male, get this ego that they're bigger than everything, and the show can't go on without those. Well, I hate to tell you, young ladies like this are coming to take over, and it's their personalities like yours and being humble and just being a good person that's going to keep you in the game. And I think it's great.
Yeah. I mean, my dad says the same thing. He's like, you might not know everything, but if you can just have a good attitude, and my coworkers enjoy working with me because I'm not the smartest person that I work with, but I like to think I'm positive and I create a positive environment.
Yeah. So just to recap what we talked about today, we talked about Ashley's young upbringing. She was basically raised in this industry. It was just a matter of like what job she wanted. So she didn't pick sales. She didn't pick music instructor. She picked going to the big leagues. And the more she works, the more experience you get, the more you're going to be asked to do bigger jobs. And I can't wait for the day that I see on Instagram that you're A1 for this huge show, and everybody's Ashley Costello and wants your autograph.
Yeah.
I think you're a good role model for young ladies that want to get into this business, and I encourage it. Young ladies need to think about this as a skill and a paid job. And let's face it, you love what you're doing, right? There's not too many jobs that you get into that you absolutely love what you're doing. I can tell you that the multiple facets of the audio industry that I work in, I love every one of it, or I wouldn't be doing it. And what's great about this job too is that it's in more demand than you can even imagine, this skill set.
Yep.
And they pay pretty well too. So I want to thank you for your insights and your experiences. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add about the show?
I guess if you're a woman out there listening that is in this industry or thinking about it, just do it and don't give up. And if you love it, just keep pushing through and don't let, you're going to run into people that are going to doubt you because you're a woman or because you're young. But just keep going and keep learning as much as you can. Yeah.
I would say humility is a lot of things too. Admit that you're wrong, and admit that in a lot of situations, if someone's there that's superior technical wise, you just got to say, hey, I'm just learning from you. Could you help me? And that's all you have to say, and you get instant respect. When you go in there thinking you know what you're doing and making mistakes over and over, that's where that's where you start to lose your job and your respect from others. So, Tech Nerds, thank you for paying attention to this episode. I think this is the second episode, so I hope it brings some value to you. I hope it brings some value to the young ladies that want the courage. This is your calling, ladies. Come be in the audio industry. There's plenty of jobs. I can't stress that enough. So,
yes.
Thanks again. Have a great day. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.